Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Forthright open role-playing game. And so this is a very interesting so I'm very excited, of course, because this is a brand new 2017 tabletop role-playing game core rulebook. And if you know anything about me, that is my jam. I absolutely love core rulebooks because with core rulebooks, you get to see a new approach to design, you get to see a new approach to layout. You get to see a new world. They're always great. I really, really, really love core role-playing games and core rule books, and I think they're really, really healthy for the hobby. Okay, all right, so I want to talk first about who created it. So it was Brian R. Shipp, Sarah Perry Shipp, and Jackie Ray Waters Jr. Jackie Ray Waters Jr. Also, who created it is a little complex because everybody I just listed, they're all listed for game design, but there's only one writing credit, and that is Brian R. Shipp. Okay, so that's the creator. Now, beyond those three, there's a pretty extensive team. It looks like the creative team on it was between 5 and 15 people total. And then there was well over 20 or 30 different individual contributors. So it looks like this was a very collaborative, open role-playing game creation project, okay? And, all right, so let's get into it. So first I want to talk a little bit about what I'm doing today. So this is what's called an in-flight review, which means that I am currently reading this book, and I am reviewing it as I read it, all right? Now, so that is what I'm doing. Now you might be like, what? You're reviewing a game before you've read it, right? So if you don't know if you don't know why someone would do an in-flight review or the value of an in-flight review, I've done an entire video on that subject alone, and you can check that out right here on this channel. All right. Also, just so you're aware, the creator of Index Card RPG does in-flights and reviews as well. All right. So. Let's jump into it. So one, I am absolutely thrilled about the Forthright open role-playing game because they've done something that's really, really wonderful and incredibly generous and healthy for the tabletop role-playing game industry, in my opinion, which is they have made the entire text of this book and everything you need to play this game, the entire text of the book is available for absolutely free. Okay, so they're really living up to that part on the front that talks about open role-playing game. Okay, so this is the Forthright open role-playing game, and they're putting their money where their mouth is, and so this game you could go to Drive-Thru RPG right now, and you can get the entire game and start playing this weekend for nothing. Right, and that is a huge deal, an absolutely huge deal. Okay. One, free role-playing games that are robust, like over 100 pages long, there are a few, okay, but they're fairly rare, right? There are a lot of smaller scale tabletop role-playing games, and there are a lot of free hacks now. Hacks is it's a very, very complicated subject that I'm still forming my opinions on hacks, right? But this is not a hack, okay? This is a fully formed tabletop role-playing game that you can get and you can play. Now, I also want to be clear, right now on tabletop role-playing game, on Drive-Thru RPG, the Forthright open role-playing game is out there, and you can get it for, you can actually go and get it in its fully formed version as well. So you can actually get the full color version, and the full color version, includes art and looks like a traditional tabletop role-playing game, okay? And also, I should also say, when you get the book, right, this tabletop role-playing game book, it's in eMobi format and EPUB, right, which is a weird format. Generally, the entire tabletop role-playing game industry has standardized on PDF, so I thought it was really strange that they weren't offering the free version in PDF. You do get the essentially the game charter, the character sheet, and there's one or two other sheets in there as well that are all in PDF. But the actual core text of the book comes in Mobi and EPUB format. Now, actually, before I got that thing on my device, I was actually kind of like, this is weird. I'm not excited about this. But once I got it on there, because it's just text, you could scale the text up and down. And once it was on there, it really wasn't a problem. But that could be a blocker for some people because not everybody uses Mobi and EPUB. A lot of times, like game creators kind of assume a high level of tech savviness, which that's a fair assumption nowadays. I don't think there are many. I think the crossover between technically savvy and tabletop role-playing game is actually extremely high. Actually, it's extremely high. So just be aware of that. That is part of what you're getting there. All right. So just going forward here. So this is a very interesting game. Overall, so far as I'm going through it, what I'm seeing is that what this looks like is that somebody read Dungeon World. Somebody read Sage Latura. Somebody read Luke Crane. Somebody read Fred Hicks, and then amalgamated their ideas into one game, and did an Orville on them where they filed off the serial numbers and everything I've seen so far. This game looks incredibly impacted by Sage Latura, Fred Hicks, and Luke Crane, right? It really looks, and also, you know what? I would say John Harper's probably in there too. Less so, but there's definitely some John Harper in there. So the people who read this, they are very savvy about indie tabletop role-playing games. And I think the idea here was to take all those ideas, kind of make a gumbo out of them, and put them into one book, and be careful and deliver them in a way that's legal, right? So basically, almost everything I've read so far in this book, I've seen in other tabletop role-playing games, okay? Now, that does not dismiss what they've done or take away the value of the game. By giving the game away for free, that's a very big deal. So one of the things is all those games, Blades in the Dark, that game's not free, right? Now Fate is free, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Luke Crane's game, the vast majority of those are not free. Everything he did in Mouse Guard, not free. What's happening in Inheritance right now, not free. And then Sage Latura, Dungeon World, is not free. That's not a free game, right? But all of those games have brilliant, brilliant concepts. And the idea of bringing a game to market that is free and open source, right? And actually being careful to say, we're going to use the types of game mechanics that are in these games, but not actually not actually the literal terms, or, these are very smart people that are creating this game, and they're taking the time to make it so that the concepts in it can legally be used. And I want to talk about that. That is a huge deal. So actually, recently, my tabletop role-playing game activity has been, for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been almost all Fate, right? So I really like Fate a lot, and the reason why is you cannot beat a free tabletop role-playing game in many ways, and the reason why is when you are using a free tabletop role-playing game, which Fate is available for free, okay, and I used a Fate Accelerated, you can just give that to anybody you want for nothing. So growing your game can be super fast, super low risk, and that's great because it allows you to bring in people who traditionally would not play tabletop role-playing games, because it's incredibly difficult to say, hey, I want you to try this new thing, and the first thing you're going to do is pay $60. And that's tough, even $20. Not everybody has that kind of money, and then it's even more difficult on the game master to absorb that cost and pay that $20 extra every time you want to give a new copy of the game out. So the ability to spread the game like a virus is virtually unbeatable. It beats so many. Honestly, I'll say it right now. I think Blades in the Dark is a much, much better game than Fate. But the fact that Fate is free, I've played multiple games of Fate in the last 2 years, and I've played no Blades in the Dark. And the reason why is, for me to play Blades in the Dark, I need to convince 4 or 5 other people to put out a minimum of $20 to $60. And that is a massive hurdle, So the fact that Forthright open role-playing game is out there and it's available for free is tremendous. It is absolutely tremendous. And what it can do is amazing. So it helps to bring in players who traditionally might not play tabletop role-playing games, okay? In addition to that, it helps people who might not be in a like, generally, I think in our society overall right now, if you are struggling with money, there's probably some good reasons why you're struggling with money. You may have encountered some serious obstacles just to life overall, right? So for those people to have Fate and now Forthright Open RPG to be able to jump in and play a game this weekend, that is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. It really is a benefit to society. It's a benefit to our community. It's really, really wonderful. And I'm very excited to see Forthright Open Roleplay. Okay. All right. So what is Forthright Open Roleplay and what does it do? All right. So one of the biggest things I've seen so far, and I've read probably about the first 25%, right, is it has this concept of fight talk skill. Okay, so basically, when you're coming at the game, it looks at all activity from the perspective from this band of activity. You are either fighting, you are communicating, or you're using a skill, which is interesting because I think that's both fighting and talking really overlap quite a bit with skills, but some of the worst tabletop role-playing games on the market are the ones that are all skill-based. It's a bad way to approach game design. So I think this is really innovative, and it's very interesting. There are a few things I was not super hot on that I've seen so far in Forthright Open Role-Playing Game. And I want to talk about this real quick. So one, again, before I go any further, I suggest everyone immediately goes out and gets Forthright Open RPG, the free version. Check it out for yourself. If you like it, buy the pro version, right? That's an unbeatable distribution model. It is absolutely fantastic, right? But some of the things I didn't like. So one of the things is, I am an absolute opponent of Session Zero, okay? This game, and the reason why is my take on Session Zero. Session Zero is a committee to have a role-playing game. And nothing awesome ever comes out of committees. They are always big old compromise pies that really produce an incredibly milquetoast product, okay, or setting or whatever. And this game actually builds Session Zero into the game. So it has a game charter, okay? And this game charter is very problematic, all right, in my opinion, okay? So one, what it does is it sits everybody down, and so you have this entire session before you play thing one, where the game master goes, I don't know what you guys want to do, please tell me, right? Which I just feel like that is the worst approach to building a world, okay? And so basically, the game master brings forward an idea, and then everybody gets their chance to, poke their fingers in that pie and make it worse, which generally, it's bad. And this game, it really takes Session Zero to, it actually incorporates it. It builds it right into the game, which, by the way, I have another video on that. If you're curious of my opinions on Session Zero, I have an entire video on why I think Session Zeros are very, very bad ideas. All right, so this game is going, hey, everything's collaborative. Everybody at the table is the game master, essentially. That's my take. They don't say that, but that's another thing with Session Zero is I feel the Session Zeros are saying, I as the game master am not capable of bringing a strong story for you, and so I need you to help me and put in a million things into this game, and I want to craft it to exactly what you want. Well, the reality is, the problem is, this idea, Session Zero, comes from game designers who are playing with game designers. The problem is, you take this nonsense into any regular game, and you're going to find out real quick that there are players and there are game masters. And so often and even in this book, it talks about all these conversations where the Session Zero is going poorly. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is there is one significant problem that I've seen so far in this game, and that is their idea about Session Zero is very distinct, right? And they're like, you really need Session Zero. This should be built. And here's the best way to tell. They say, if you don't do a Session Zero, this is literally in the book, it's go into a hole, kill monsters, get loot. And they say that dismissively, right? Well, here's the problem, right? Go into a hole, kill monsters, and get loot. That has served thousands of game groups for 40 years, right? So you can't just write off, go in a hole, kill monsters, and get loot. That has been a lot of fun for a lot of people for a long time. And so the advice to players and game masters is very, very heavy-handed. And this has that very strong feel of every way you want to play is good, and there's no wrong way to play, but this is the right way to play. The advice to the players and the game masters is extremely heavy-handed from what I've seen. I think there's some brilliant ideas in here. I'm going to keep reading. That's my take on this game so far. I'm very excited to continue to read. I'm really just wonderfully happy to have a brand new game, and I'm very excited about Forthright open role-playing. Take care.